You know, there's little in life that really gets my wheels spinning, the cogs churning, keeps me up at night, has me mapping out schedules and making all sorts of lists and checking things off and determining, okay, well, we've got 3 locations here, so we can't have another one. You know, it's a chessboard beyond anything that I've ever tried to tackle before. And again, it just keeps me up at night trying to determine where College Game Day is going to choose to do its show. Welcome into the Voice of College Football on a Wednesday night. Great to see all of you here. We will take your calls a little bit later. Hopefully, we will take your calls a little bit later here at the Voice of College Football. But of course, we, in a sense, are wink, 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 being a bit sarcastic. This is one of the fascinations of the college football world, college football nation, that I do not partake in. I have great respect for the work done on College Game Day. It has become the standard, the gold standard, the show of record for college football pregame shows in its something close to 30 years of existence. It started in the studio at ESPN. They took it on the road a few years later, and it's been the mainstay with, of course, Chris Fowler hosting originally, now Reese Davis taking over the last probably 6 or 7 years, something in that range, and Kirk Herbstreit being the number one analyst with others rotating in and out. Most recently, I believe David Pollack and Desmond Howard. I got to admit that Saturday morning is typically my time to catch up on chores and some other things and some errands before I lock in for college football at noon Eastern. So I can't just sit and focus on College Game Day for now 4 hours. It was originally 2 hours. It went to 3 hours at one point with an hour of some type of pregame to College Game Day on ESPNU at one point. I don't know if that still exists. And I think we might be up to 4 hours. Needless to say, based on the conversations we have here at the Voice of College Football throughout the season, you folks are largely invested in the determination and decision of College Game Day. I get it. If you're on campus, if you're going to be able to partake in the festivities there, that would be fun. That would be something to behold. Reminds me of a funny story before we dive into the week by week prognostications I'm going to make, and want to get your feedback on the biggest games of each week during the college football season. As it stands right now, of course, things are going to change. Some teams are going to falter. Others are going to emerge to change the landscape of what we think are the biggest games. But brings to mind a comment that my mom made to me when we were visiting Disney. This would have been in about 2005 or 6. We were visiting Disney, took my family down to Disney, including my mom. And in one of the parks, I don't remember which one, ESPN was doing, I believe, Baseball Tonight. It was during spring training, and doing a week-long series of Baseball Tonight shows from Disney. And there were guys running cables and setting up for the show hours and hours in advance. And we're walking through the park. We sit down to have an ice cream cone and just rest for a couple minutes or something. And my mom's witnessing all this going on. She asked me, what is this? Is this, I see the signs, ESPN doing some shows here. And I said, yeah, this is, and I explained it to her. And then she said, Mark, why don't you go up and talk to one of these guys? She's talking about like the guys running the cable. She said, why don't you run up and talk to one of these guys and see if you can, make some contacts. I said, Mom, you understand. I work for this company. It was rather amusing. You understand, Mom, why we got in free. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. It's always a good time with all of you. All right. College game day. Before we get to that, would love to know what's on all of your minds because we will not restrict this to the college football game day lists because, of course, you guys ultimately produce the show. You guys ultimately produce the show with your comments and your questions and your calls. We are going to cross our fingers on the call-in system because the last time we used the call-in system, let's see, this would have been on, when was that? Sometime over the weekend, we did a call-in show, and at some point, we had a disconnect and we had a short in the line, and I tested that out with mixed results a couple hours ago. So we could be in needing some operational work here at the Voice of College Football. We'll see. Alan says, don't worry, they won't be in Oregon this year. Woo. Alan, I'm guessing Washington fan. Difficult to keep track of everyone's teams unless you're this obvious. Like Eric, we appreciate you, Eric, being on all the shows today. Big day always on Wednesdays here at the Voice of College Football with Michigan live at 5 Eastern, Florida State at 6, Miami at 7. Then we tack on this call-in show. All right, George is already making his selection of Florida, Georgia in Jacksonville. Game day going to be there. Okay, book it. We shall see. We're going to run through the list of each week, and I'll make my selection. AB's here. Jason is here. Good to see Daniel. Yes, week 1, which I, of course, wanted to produce a video or a live stream prior to them announcing week 1. But for the record, I did nail week 1. That was an easy one. Oregon, Georgia was some type of consideration there, but really there was only one selection to be made on week 1. Ohio State hosting Notre Dame, primetime ABC game. So that was an easy one. I'm 1 for 1, as is just about everybody else. Good to see Florida Buckeye and Tim as well. Sauer is watching this show during a tornado warning. So button down the hatches, make sure everything's okay, make sure everyone's okay. You're all good, but we will keep you company, Sauer YT. The show's so good. Good to see you, Tim. Keep in mind that we're running our series on, is this the year? Blank. Is this the year that... And we will take your requests. Thus far, we have produced, is this the year that Notre Dame finally wins a major bowl game? Has not happened since 1994. Is this the year that Notre Dame finally wins a major bowl game? Is this the year that Michigan finally wins in Columbus? Has not happened since 2000. Is this the year Texas A&M finally wins a conference championship? Has not happened since 1998. We've got other ones to go. Is this the year that Iowa finally posts a top 50 offense? Has not happened since 2006. So we will take your requests. Odyssey's 2002, week 2 probably in Austin. I see that. McD Sports, any Maryland possibilities. And see, this is the intriguing portion of this. I don't care about College Game Day. Great show, phenomenal show, the industry standard, all that. I don't care about College Game Day and where it decides to go. What this does, though, is we sift through the college football season. We get to see, okay, early on, we know what the expectations are for the top teams in the country and the top brands in the country. But hopefully, we will have an interesting enough college football season that there will be some wild card matchups. Once we get past like week 3, week 4, maybe a couple upsets early in the season cause maybe a South Carolina to spring into the spotlight. Maybe Penn State gets past Purdue and Auburn, and suddenly they're on a run and they're in the top 10 in the country. Uncle Rico, the reason this has not been addressed sooner is it required my full focus and planning, hours and hours and hours of planning. Actually, I think the typing that I did in building the banners, which took me about 9 minutes, is about top of the line when it comes to. I even addressed the helmet placement. This show is so important. Can't believe that we've only got 33 on the line right now. Call your neighbors, because what we've done here is, instead of having the traditional voice of college football where everyone is facing due right, which would be north, we are actually proposing some matchups here. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Georgia here. You probably can't see that. Oklahoma, Texas, USC, UCLA back here. Texas A&M and Miami above me. So, man, we've torn up the set just to make this show special. SEC Dog, great to see you. Week 3, Auburn, Penn State, possibly. Tim loves the Fox show. Urban Meyer was exceptional on the Fox show. Now that it's Bob Stoops, and I've got all the respect in the world for Bob Stoops, but not quite as cutting edge, blunt, direct football nuts and bolts. There you go, Daniel. That's it. I should have been able to come up with that one. Jason does not think that Game Day has been very good for a while. You know, and I really can't argue with that, Jason, because even though I know that the talent, for the most part, I've got some exceptions that come to mind. The talent on set is exceptional. And of course, the production's exceptional. I've not seen enough of it for the last 10 to 15 years to really knowingly comment. Zona Tucson 93 misses Chris Fowler. Of course, 93, a great year for Arizona football with Teddy Bruschi and company. Yes, Fowler's exceptional. Reese Davis, though, is a true pro, top of the line. Zona Tucson 93, we appreciate you being here. And you know what? This is the first time I've seen your handle here at the Voice of College Football. So you know what that means, Zona Tucson 93. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Would love to know who you root for. I think I got that. Would love to know how long you've been watching. And I truly hope that we can deliver for you, Zona Tucson 93. I hate to wear my glasses. Zona Tucson 93. I hope to deliver Arizona football talk. Give us something to talk about this fall. Jed Fish and Company, let's get it. Roger Dodger, we're going to take it from you that this is official. Ohio State with the most game day appearances, 54. Bama second, 52. Tim likes Herbie, Pollock, and RG3. I like those three as well. I really enjoy those three as well. With the, oh, shoot, the play-by-play guy, the basketball guy that's been doing the NBA forever, that does the games with RG3. I'm drawing a blank. Wow. He's been famous for longer than RG3, but I can't think of his name. But they put those two guys in the booth together. I think it's a good time. No question, Zona Tucson, you've got Game Day headed your way. Wouldn't that be something, Daniel? Suddenly there's like a bad edit. They're doing the complete show live, and then suddenly there's a bad edit, and you see style clothing from like 1999, and you see Lee Corso circa 1999 at Tuscaloosa picking Bama to beat Tennessee. Yeah. The real MVP, Georgia, Kentucky. Wouldn't that be something else? Which reminds me, we do not have a Kentucky helmet. Christopher, I would like to take calls. We will try to take calls. Let me just get through the weeks. Lying again. Yes. Why would you want to call me, Chris, if I'm always lying? All right. SEC Dog. The radio guys are where it's at for me. Homer calls, mute the TV, turn up the radio. It's kind of difficult for me to even find, like, where do you tune into the radio in your household? I'm sure it's easily done, but the only time I ever think about listening to the radio is when I'm in the car. And that's not even necessarily something I do often. Damn, I did not know there was Chris Fowler hate. I did not know either. Brooks appreciates the consistency, brother. Perfect for my college football addiction. We're here, Brooks. We are here analyzing the game we all love each and every day with you. We released a video earlier today here on the main channel looking at Arizona State's train wreck under Herm Edwards. We had Michelle Gardner on from Arizona Republic, so check out that video. We went through national championship videos here recently looking at Miami. It's on the Miami channel. Ohio State and Alabama. Nebraska is next. So, Daniel, I love doing those videos. I love delving into college football history. Just understand the only reason why I come up a bit short and stop those, put those to a halt, is they don't get tremendous views. Tim is saying, is this the year the Mark will put Lincoln Riley in the top 10 coaches in college football? He's just on the fringe, just on the outside of the top 10. Everybody check out the coach's video with my rankings. I should go back to last year's rankings and see. I don't know that I ranked the coaches last year. I should check that out. LBC Trojan, is this the year Wisconsin or Oregon win their first national championship? So please send that request in. Don't leave it here if you do want me to look at that. I would have a difficult decision between Wisconsin and Oregon. Who would have the better shot of winning a national championship? Boy, it is a long shot for both of them. They're really good programs, but a long shot. SEC Dog, Mark Rogers, I think Jimbo Fisher will be fired in less than 3 years from now. He's a loudmouth 8-4 coach. Well, cannot disagree with you. I cannot disagree with you. Jimbo Fisher, his national championship got him the job. But once you get the job, you got to prove your worth at that job. And we know that Jimbo Fisher has done nothing but go 8-4, 8-4, 8-4, 7-5, and 9-1 in the COVID season with a weak schedule. Yeah. And really, the outlook for this season with a new starting quarterback, whether that be Max Johnson or Haynes King, they need wide receiver play on the outside. Evan Stewart is going to be key. We had a Texas A&M live the other day. Please check it out with Andrew Hattersley from Gig'em 247 Sports. I don't see a banner season for Texas A&M. The 22 class can only do so much and have so much of an impact immediately. I was kidding, McD. USC, Oklahoma in a bowl. Notre Dame, LSU. Yes. Some people have made suggestions, so I am not going to in any way take any credit for this as this being something that I thought of. In no such way. That to make bowl season more interesting, those type of matchups, if the two teams are within the vicinity in terms of rankings and records, that we should be looking for those kind of bowl matchups that people would be more interested in. USC and Oklahoma to play in a bowl game this year, Notre Dame, LSU, and others. What would some other interesting bowl matchups be? If it couldn't be Oklahoma, USC, maybe Clemson, Oklahoma. Thank you, Tim. No personal attacks, please. Daniel, this Buckeye helmet came with a measly 2 stickers, and I thought that was so just pitiful and pathetic that I just got rid of the 2 stickers. Why put 2 stickers on the helmet? It looks better without any. Keep reading, Mark. I know I'm behind. I'm not that far behind. SEC Nation. We've got to vote for SEC Nation. I've never seen it. If I really wanted to make for a long day on Saturday, my day is already ridiculously long because of Mark Jones. Thank you, McD. Mark Jones. How did I forget him? I've only heard him call about 4,000 NBA games, college football games, and other things throughout his career. Mark Jones. Thank you. Wow. But we could do a college game day if I felt as though we could do something that would be intriguing, interesting, entertaining, really preview the games, do a top-notch graphics, and do something that we could be proud of, I would give it a shot. I would give it a shot. So J Dub says, Mark, I'm old school and wish Leonard's Losers was still around. Leonard's Losers. Leonard's Losers. Man, can't come up with what that was. Okay, we're going to look week to week. Here we go. Let's line it up. Jared, before we get to the lineup of games each and every week, no, Fox does not always have the best Big Ten game in their big noon Saturday. If you look back at last season, they had Oklahoma, Texas. I believe that game has pretty much gone back and forth between ABC and Fox. I am not completely up on the seeding process, but it's basically something like, as it pertains to the Big Ten, that Fox has the number 1 game. So Fox determines the number 1 game that it can choose from, looking at the Big Ten, Big 12, etc. Their 3 conferences out of the 5, the Pac-12 included, and it's always Ohio State, Michigan. They know that that's going to draw the biggest number. It does. And so Fox, ever since 2017, 5 consecutive seasons, has selected Ohio State and Michigan number 1. And then ABC/ESPN selects game number 2 in the Big Ten. So it's usually, unless it's a big non-conference game that comes up, it's Ohio State, Penn State, typically. And then on down the line, they go back and forth. I don't know how far they go down the line going back and forth, maybe just to choose. I don't know. I can't answer that exactly. But I know, for example, this particular season, since Fox took Ohio State, Michigan, then ABC/ESPN, you all understand that's the same company under Disney, that they selected Ohio State, Notre Dame 2. That's why that game's on ABC in week 1. All right, before we get to our list of games, starting with week 1, exploring with Ben and Joey, Tim, Eric, wouldn't you like to talk to those guys on a regular basis? And me? Join us on our Discord. Go to patreon.com, sign up there. I will send you the link, and then you can talk college football with these guys all the time, 24/7, 365. We've got a college football committee community. We don't have a committee. I would like to have a committee. For as much as I would like to take over the committee, we just have a community, the Voice of College Football community on Discord. We've got about 55 or 60. So please sign up. Patreon.com. Search Mark Rogers TV. And I'm going to ask one of my guys here, one of my core, whether that be Eric, Exploring with Ben, Joey, somebody, can you grab the Patreon link? If anybody can do that, that would be great. Throw it in the chat. Go to Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV, sign up there. We get you the link. You get Discord, and then you get Patreon as well. So this is what we have. Again, ill-timed by me because I was going to make the obvious prediction of Notre Dame, Ohio State, even though I saw some people thought that it would go the way of Oregon, Georgia. I didn't think that that would be it. It doesn't even compare, I don't think, as a game. We'll see when the games play out. But in terms of a matchup, this is the game, and that's College Game Day selection for week 1. Okay, that's all we know. Now on to week 2. So South Carolina, Arkansas, Tennessee, Pitt, Iowa State, Iowa, USC, Stanford, Baylor, BYU, Kentucky, Florida. So at this point in the season, of course, probably none of these teams will have a loss. So they'll be unscathed at that point. So it's going to be whatever they see as most attractive at that point, while also kind of looking down the road because they don't want to show up in Tuscaloosa 3 times or Columbus 3 times. The game that I don't think there's any question that it's going to be Alabama and Texas. It's just too big of an attraction, too marquee of brands for it not to be Alabama and Texas week 2. That's my selection. Does anybody else have a claim for any other game? I don't think that's going to be the best game of the week, Alabama, Texas. I think that's simply going to be College Game Day's choice. The best game of the week out of all of those, if I could only watch one game in week 2, I would be tempted to watch Alabama, Texas just because of the importance of the game and the brands. But the best game could be South Carolina, Arkansas out of all those games. I like that South Carolina, Arkansas matchup with KJ Jefferson and Spencer Rattler going at it. Week 3, we've got Georgia, South Carolina. Now, if South Carolina gets by Arkansas on the road, they are quickly well into the top 25 in the rankings. Oklahoma, Nebraska. That's a Fox big noon game. So they're going to be playing at 11 local time. Penn State, Auburn slated for a 3:30 Eastern game. BYU, Oregon's an intriguing matchup. I got to think there is no doubt that Miami and Texas A&M are both going to be undefeated at this point. It's only week 3, and neither one of them play anyone the first 2 weeks of the season. I am putting a large bankroll on Miami and Texas A&M. I think I've got the first 3 locked in. Notre Dame, Ohio State, of course, Alabama, Texas, then Miami, Texas A&M. Week 4, Arkansas upset Texas A&M last year. I don't believe that game's at Kyle Field. It's typically at Cowboys Stadium. Florida, Tennessee, even though Florida's probably not going to be very good, exceptionally good, that might be an opportunity for Game Day to get a Florida game in. And if Tennessee beats Pitt, Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State at Oklahoma, Kansas State getting a little love as a Big 12 dark horse. Minnesota, Michigan State's an interesting one. Notre Dame and North Carolina. So all those games are kind of on the same tier. None of them are Alabama, Texas, Notre Dame, Ohio State. If Arkansas beats South Carolina and Texas A&M beats Miami, although if Texas A&M Miami's the selection the week before at Texas A&M, College Game Day is not going to go back to Texas A&M. So my selection here, I think we could see a Florida-Tennessee. There's high interest, two enormous fan bases, and this is before they get tagged with a bunch of losses. Possibly Florida-Tennessee there. Okay, week 5, Bama, Arkansas. Hogs gave them trouble last year. Now they've got them in Fayetteville. There's a lot of really good, but not top of the line, ridiculously good SEC games. Look at that. Alabama, Arkansas, LSU, Auburn, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Stanford, Oregon, Oklahoma State, Baylor, the 2 Big 12 championship teams from last year. Oklahoma State, Baylor. Wow, the last 2 there. So West Virginia, Texas, Michigan, Iowa, NC State, Clemson. I am going to go NC State and Clemson because I think they're going to look at that as possibly the game of the year in the ACC. NC State, Clemson, week 5. Week 6, the rematch of Texas A&M, Alabama, Jimbo, Saban, the feud. Okay. Texas A&M, though, has to get by Miami and Arkansas. Auburn, Georgia, South Carolina, Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Texas, Oklahoma, always a favorite of Game Day. Of course, the biggest rivalry in the Big 12. Ohio State at Michigan State, interesting selection there, possibly. UNC at Miami, probably the most important game of the Coastal Division season, probably. That's a tough one, but I think it's going to be difficult unless Texas A&M has 2 losses. They lose to Miami. If they lose to Miami and beat Arkansas, then I think we're in line for a Texas A&M Alabama College Game Day. But that's a strong week. This gets you pumped for college football. When you see the collection of all the good games every week, that's nice. Week 7, then I'll look at your comments. LSU at Florida. Brian Kelly, let's say Florida beats Tennessee. And LSU, I believe, had one previous difficult game. I forget which one that was. We're in week 7. We've got LSU at Florida. Alabama, Tennessee. But, of course, Alabama was featured the week before against Texas A&M at home. This might be the time to feature the Pac-12. USC at Utah might be the game of the year in the Pac-12. Probably will be. Wisconsin, Michigan's a nice matchup. Penn State, Michigan. I don't think. Wisconsin, Michigan State. I was going to say Michigan's playing 2 games on the same day. Wisconsin at Michigan State. Penn State at Michigan. I love all these games, all these matchups, but I think the Pac-12 is going to get featured in week 7. Week 8, Mississippi State at Alabama. There are so many important games between good teams in the SEC Western Division. It's going to be up to whether somebody can kind of, besides Bama, push through, and we could just have a slaughterhouse of 5-3, 4-4 teams in the SEC Western Division. Ole Miss at LSU. There's another one. Texas at Oklahoma State. Texas gets by, not Bama. They're not winning that game. But if Texas beats Oklahoma and Oklahoma State beats Baylor, there's your game. Iowa at Ohio State. If the Hawkeyes beat the Wolverines, that could be considered. Okay, then we go to the, if we're still allowed to say it, the largest cocktail party, the largest outdoor cocktail party, which I would think that you would naturally have a larger cocktail party outdoors than indoors. Florida, Georgia, Kentucky at Tennessee, Ole Miss at Texas A&M, Michigan State at Michigan. I think that's your game. Ohio State at Penn State, Pitt at North Carolina, another Coastal Division matchup that will be big. Penn State's got to get by Purdue, Michigan, and Auburn at this point. If they win 2 of those 3, then they're 8-1 at this point. 7-1. I think this is a Michigan State-Michigan game for College Game Day in Week 9. Week 10, and I haven't mapped all this out, so if I've repeated some teams a few times, College Game Day, do they favor ESPN, ABC games? Yes. Do they favor them to the extent that they're not going to go to a Fox game? Of course, they've proven over the years, absolutely not. They'll go to Fox and CBS games. They like to feature night games somewhat, or maybe that's just coincidence because the night games are typically the bigger games. Week 10, College Game Day, has Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama at LSU, which has probably been the site for College Game Day a million times, Florida at Texas A&M, Clemson at Notre Dame, bing, 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 Iowa at Purdue, Wake Forest at NC State. I'll go Wake Forest at NC State as a dark horse. If those two are able to get past Clemson, I don't know if Wake had played Clemson at this point, but NC State did. Clemson at Notre Dame's my selection for Week 10. Week 11, LSU, Arkansas. You see a recurring theme of the SEC Western Division playing so many marquee games. Alabama at Ole Miss, Oklahoma at West Virginia. Nebraska at Michigan. I'm going to say at this point in the season, Ole Miss will not have been featured yet. Therefore, it's going to be Alabama at Ole Miss. If Nebraska is a story at this point in the season, because let's say they had one loss at this point. They've lost to Oklahoma or Minnesota. Nebraska does not play Michigan State or Ohio State or Penn State in the Big Ten East. They've got a much lighter schedule. They could have a nice record at this point. So Nebraska, Michigan, it's a possibility. I'm going to go Alabama, Ole Miss. Then we've got, and Michigan's got a light schedule as well with no big non-conference games. Week 12, College Game Day, we'll be looking at Ole Miss, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky. There's your game to real MVP. Georgia at Kentucky. Utah at Oregon, Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. Now, if there's a decision between now and then that the SEC will take in Oklahoma and Texas in 2023, that could factor into Bedlam being the last one scheduled. The last Bedlam game scheduled on the books, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. But look at the rest of these games. They're phenomenal. Iowa, Minnesota, love that game. Wisconsin, Nebraska, 2 huge games in the Big Ten West. Miami at Clemson. If Miami beats Texas A&M, that's your game. Week 13, the final regular season weekend, Alabama, Auburn. The Iron Bowl is huge, of course, but Auburn does not expect or project to be very good. We would think slam dunk Michigan, Ohio State. Other considerations, LSU, Texas A&M, Baylor at Texas, Notre Dame at USC. Let's say Notre Dame beats Ohio State. Let's say USC is 10-1 at this point, let's say. And so Ohio State's knocked down a peg. Maybe Michigan's already clinched the East. I don't know. Minnesota, Wisconsin. It's going to be tough to displace Michigan, Ohio State, especially considering what happened last year. But my second choice here would be Notre Dame, USC. Minnesota, Wisconsin, love that game, but they're going to have to be playing out of their minds to grab College Game Day's attention. Pitt at Miami could be for a division championship as well. And then the only other consideration is Army, Navy. They've got the week, and rightfully so, to themselves. 2 weeks after these games, because we've got conference championship games the next weekend. And typically, I guess, College Game Day, they go to one of the conference championship games. So let's project that. Georgia, Alabama, part 17. All right. Let's see what you guys have. Not your average sports kid. Good to see you here. We went with Texas A&M Miami week 3. All right. I think it's time to take some calls. Cross your fingers, say a prayer, whatever you need to do. We had a short the last time we did the call-in show, and we checked it out. Double X Buckets for Life. Good to see you as well. Yeah, Lorenzo, looking at the Miami-Clemson game, it could be a preview for the ACC championship game. The two best teams from the conference, and with College Game Day most likely not showing up for the ACC championship game. I like how you're thinking there. Tim this would be insane. This would be phenomenal. I would love it. Notre Dame and USC undefeated. That tags my Buckeyes with a loss. But that aside, as a college football fan and host right here, Notre Dame, USC, both undefeated, would be insane. All right. You guys talk amongst yourselves. We will fire things up, and hopefully technology will be good to us. We appreciate all 103 on the line. Keep in mind that we've got live streams all over the place. Today, Michigan, Florida State, and Miami. Check out those live streams. Tomorrow, Thursday, Ohio State live at 1:30. So get here 1:30 Eastern on the Ohio State channel for Buckeyes live. And then later we've got Miami live at 8 Eastern tomorrow night. So that should be a good time. And then on Friday, we've got another twin bill with Oklahoma live on Friday and West Virginia live. And check out our poll that we posted a few days ago. Go to the community page and please weigh in. I want to set up a summer live call-in schedule. And I'm trying to get your feedback. The call failed twice. There we go. So again, go to the community page to please respond. You can give your feedback in the comment section, but you can also respond as to whether you would like to see us do morning shows. Please, I beg of you, no call-in shows early. No morning shows. You don't want to see me trying to talk to all of you and trying to listen and respond at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Please don't do that to me. But if you want, what we'll probably end up doing is having like a noon show one day and a 6 p.m. show on another day and like a 9 p.m. show on another day. That's probably what we'll end up doing. I love how Chris likes to compromise what I said. Mark was hedging before the game that Ohio State was not going to be motivated to play Utah in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, I came up with that theory, Chris. I think every person on the planet conjectured that it was possible that Ohio State would not be motivated. I did pick the Buckeyes to win the game. However, I did pick Utah to cover the spread, which I think they were getting 7 or 8 points in that game, right? All right. Our number here is 860-499-3332. The number will be up in just a second. Meanwhile, look at the bottom ticker. You can contribute at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App in addition to the Super Chat here on YouTube. But if you would like to bypass YouTube, you can contribute at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, as some of you do, and we appreciate all of you who do contribute in any way. And we are hoping that we are going to have a good response here. I'm taking the first call. Give me just a second. Want to make sure that our settings are switched over. I think I recognize this number. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line? I am doing just fine. Give me just 1 second. Give me just 1 second. Okay, we are connected. Hang in there.
I'm hanging in there.
All right. Yes, sir. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
Here
good.
we
There
go.
was a few.
Here we go. Everybody else can hear the real MVP because I can see his levels showing, but I've got a short in this line. So I'm guessing everybody else can hear him, but not me. Is that true? Can everybody else hear the real MVP? Yes. Remick is telling us, yes, we can hear him. But of course, I can't hear him. Oh, this is brutal. So we're going to try one other thing, which would be. No, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think it's going to work if I try this. The real MVP, this is your chance to say whatever you want on the Voice of College Football, and I will have no idea what you're saying, as I don't. But I'm trying to test level so you can just talk, just soliloquy in just the most passionate and eloquent way on, I don't know, Kentucky football, if you'd like.
Oh, okay, guys. So since Mark can't hear me, Mark wanted me to say whatever I wanted to say to fill up some time. Well, I was going to just mention him, but I'll mention to you all, since he can't hear me, is there was a few games Mark had that he didn't even mention that I thought was where Gameday was going to go. The first one I was going to say was week 4. Clemson plays Wake Forest.
Can everybody
I think that's
still
where
hear
College
him?
Gameday is going to go. I think that Wake Forest is going to be 4-0. Clemson's going to be 4-0. That might, in my opinion, that is the game.
See if I do that. Nobody's going to be able to hear him.
It's finally going to get a game day with USC versus Utah, possible playoff implications, which is exciting for them. I mean, that could even be a top 5 matchup at that point in the season. So I'm really happy for the Pac-12 for finally getting a big-time game, and it'll help out the sport. And another game that I thought Mark didn't mention, but I think should be worthy of at least a mention, was BYU versus Notre Dame. The Mormons versus the Catholics. I think that'd be a good storyline for college football.
The real MVP, you could just like carry the rest of the show. We could just keep you on the phone and you could run through the schedule and you could just make this your own platform. That would be phenomenal.
Okay.
Can everybody hear him? I know this is not the best ideal situation, but I guess this is what we're going to do. This is what, for anybody that used to watch me, I don't know, before like 2 years ago, this is what I had to do is hold the phone up to the microphone.
So Mark, are you able to hear me or just?
Oh, I can hear you. Yep. I can hear you because I'm just playing you over a phone and just holding the phone over the mic.
Okay, well, would you like to respond with what I said about Wake Forest versus Clemson being college game day?
Okay. What I guess I failed to put that on my rundown of games. What week is that? Do you know?
Week 4. I've got a
Week
list of every
4.
game.
Okay, week 4. What's it compete? Let's see. I've got those lists. I got that. No, I don't. I don't have week 4. So I'm going to be able to figure out pretty quickly what I selected for week 4. But who else is in competition in week 4? The real MVP?
I know. I'm looking.
Oh, okay.
Just give me a moment. I'm going to find it.
Okay, I'll get there too.
Week 4, you had Arkansas, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Michigan State, Notre Dame, North Carolina.
My prediction, I think those are all pretty much in the same ballpark, but I went with a wild card of Florida, Tennessee. And you're saying the Clemson and Wake Forest, I must have missed that, or I would have put that on the board. Yeah.
I would be happy for smaller schools to get college game day in general. So I would, as a small school advocate, I think that would be great if they went there. And you usually go to at least once a year as a small school.
Well, when you say small school, of course, you're talking about Wake Forest and you're including Kentucky. So they're really not. I know Wake Forest is a small school, and just like Duke is a small school, but they play big time athletics. Now, somewhere in there, and I just don't see room for it because I think that there are tremendous matchups every week. We've seen them go to North Dakota State or somewhere.
Mark, I'm just going to go until since you got audio issues, okay?
Thanks, man.
Try again and call back later.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
No problem.
All right. Next up here at the Voice of College Football, who's on the line?
Chris.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, Chris. I'm good. How you doing?
What's going on? Okay. I don't want to upset anybody. I know sometimes I say things that are a little maybe extreme in there. That's not what I'm trying to do. I hope you don't think I am. I'm not trying to. I just have my own view, and I guess you have yours, and they don't coincide. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's people.
I think even people that are married, maybe, or I've never been married, but you have to sometimes just agree to disagree. That might be what it is, really, ultimately. I don't know. I can't speak for you directly, but the only reason I keep mentioning it, though, I don't know if I already told you this. I probably did, and I don't know how relevant it is to anything going on now. I know you and I don't blame you. You like to look at the present system and rather than look at things that are already maybe tried and maybe didn't work out the way you wanted them, or probably you're not alone. I'm sure there's other people that wouldn't be entertaining the idea of a new construct if it wasn't something people wanted. But I guess, and I don't like having to bring up the same topic every time either. I know that gets a little old. I know I get comments in the people don't always. I mean, because I've said the same thing 100 times or probably more. But I guess the point, though, through all of it, though, just so you know where I'm coming from,
and it doesn't necessarily have to agree with my opinion, but, from my perspective, which is limited to the time I've been on the earth, which is only about 53 years, but, I didn't really like the fact that there wasn't maybe a consensus, way to sell the problem. But as I've gotten older, I kind of look at things a little bit differently. I kind of think that, there might be a way. I don't know that there's one way that pleases everybody, no matter how you do it. So whether it's a playoff, whether it's not, whether it's there's going to be. I guess the point, and I don't know if you see this way or not, but I don't see the playoff as being the way that fixes everything. I just don't think that's accurate. It might fix some of the problems that maybe sufficiently to where maybe by the end maybe there is one team that. I'm not going to say it doesn't. I think it's been proven to work, but I just don't know that it's the only way that works. That's ultimately what I'm trying to tell you, Mark. It's not that I think you're wrong. If I tell you you're wrong, it's just that my opinion is different than yours. It doesn't mean that I think you're wrong. Go ahead.
Well, to a certain extent, it's all opinion, unless there's a fact. It's a fact that Michigan went 12-2 last year. Obviously, that's not an opinion. That's a fact. I'm curious because we have talked about the NFL at times. You seem to enjoy other sports. If not, you don't. You at least watch the NFL or have in the past. So do you?
Oh, sure.
Do you promote? Do you enjoy? Do you think that playoffs are a good option in other sports?
I have to be honest with you, Mark. I don't. You're asking the wrong guy as far as what. I'm not. It's not like I'm Roger Goodell and it's the greatest thing. I'm sure there's probably if there wasn't broad appeal to it, I don't know that they'd be using it. But I guess my concern, maybe I'm not expressing my concern in a way that is very good, but I just think that just because it works at the professional level, that doesn't necessarily tell me that it's the best way to select a champion I guess it would be. I know college athletics is kind of moving closer to being more corporate, or at least more, what's the word? I don't know. You would probably know. It's closer to being more like a business venture, I guess. And I guess the closer we get to that, maybe at that point it becomes less options as far as what might work and what might not. But, there's such a difference, I think, between, this is just my impression. I'm sure you know a lot about it than I do, but between, let's say, the University of Georgia and the University, they're the same division, though. So I think when we try to compare the NFL, which even the NFL has, I think, levels to it, but they're not as pronounced. You could pull a team out, I don't know, I don't want to pick on anybody, but let's just say Tampa Bay. That's not the first team I think of when I think of the greatest teams, but yet they've risen to the championship several times. And so I think the model that works at the NFL, and it does work, I'm not trying to make it sound like it doesn't, but I just don't know that that's the same model that should be applied towards what would be, I guess, the next lower division, even though they're not really related that closely. I just don't know if that's the right solution. That's all I'm trying to tell you.
So, Chris,
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying I don't. Go ahead.
So let me make this point. So you know as much about college football history as I do, and we have had over the years.
I don't know a lot.
You know a lot.
You probably know a lot more than I do, Mark. No, I don't know a lot about the history. I know a little bit.
Well, regardless, you know what's happened in the past, and you know what type of issues there have been. Whether you considered certain seasons to have worked out, or there to have been some kind of conclusion where it was a bit cloudy as to who the champion should be. So we've got this history of college football where on a fairly routine basis, we have really good teams in different conferences that have not played each other during the course of the regular season, nor in bowl season or postseason play. And we've come to the end. We've come to the end of a season. For example, we'll just take 1983. Nebraska's 12-1, Miami's 11-1, Auburn's 11-1, Texas is 11-1, and none of those teams played each other. Although we had a Texas-Auburn game, we did have a Texas-Auburn game in the regular season, and of course, Nebraska and Miami played.
Okay.
What is the best way to determine who the champion is out of all those teams, other than to play a playoff?
I don't know that I can tell you. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
I don't know that there is. You are asking me?
Yes.
Are you asking me?
I am.
Well, that's a tough question to answer, to be honest with you. I never claimed to know what the best way was. I mean, if I did, I was talking out my what, because I don't know that I've ever presented myself in that way, have I? But I know what the best way is, and I know that if we just did it that way, it would make perfect sense and nobody'd have any doubt. I think what I maybe leaned into with that season, though, was I think maybe just a simple pairing between, which would have been probably what the BCS might have done. I mean, you never really know until you're actually in that situation. But I think maybe just a simple pairing between Texas and Nebraska. I mean, I don't know why it had to go much further than that. You know, I'm not sure people would say, well, that wouldn't have given you the right result, but I'm not sure what the right result would have to require then to make it right. So if it's not Texas or Nebraska, who would it have been? You know, kind of where I'm coming from. And if that's not the right answer, then I guess I don't know what the right answer is.
So you are in favor of a championship game?
Well, not exactly. You know, it's kind of, I was thinking about these past 8 years because, you know, we've had 8 seasons now where we used a different way. You know, it might not be you know, we call it a playoff. Like you said, it's only a playoff in the fact that it has 4 teams, and it's kind of maybe a little sketchy about how those 4. I mean, I think it's worked, but there's still some question about whether necessarily every team that merited selection necessarily was selected. But I think for the most part, I think people have kind of decided that if we're going to limit it to 4, which is what we've done, that I don't know that there's anybody that's basically said anything about the committee doing a bad job. And, we should have. I mean, there were rumblings, I guess, about Texas A&M that COVID year, but, you know, I don't know how many people really thought Texas A&M would legitimately win the championship. So I think all those rumblings kind of died down over the course of time. But there was, of course, you know, people thought maybe Texas A&M should have been there. And I mean, every season there seems to be at least one team that feels like they weren't given a fair chance. But apart from that, you know, I have to honestly say I don't know that there's any problem with what they're doing now, but it isn't the way I would probably choose to do it if it was up to me. But I mean, I think it works. It might not be, I don't know how fair it is. I mean, those are questions that are kind of left up to somebody else. But, you know, I think if it hadn't been Cincinnati, for example, last season, you know, because there's a question about whether Cincinnati really deserved to be there, right? Well, I don't know who else. The only team I can think of that might have merited it more, it's going to sound stupid when I tell you who I think might have merited it more, was Notre Dame. So it's like, if Notre Dame merited it more, how is that fair to Cincinnati if they actually beat Notre Dame? So I can't really look at that year as being a year where they actually did the wrong thing by putting Cincinnati instead of Notre Dame, assuming it would have been Notre Dame, which it probably wouldn't have been. But so it's like, I don't know what the objection is to maybe even just keeping it at 4. You know, maybe do you have anything to say about that?
Well, based on our past conversations, I didn't think that you liked any sort of playoff, and depending on your verbiage, that's what we have right now. I think I consider it more of an invitational, but it is a playoff. It's a tournament of 4 teams. And yes, I would like to get rid of the committee, and I would like to use an objective system to determine more than 4 teams, since we do have 5 conferences. I want more than 4 in the playoffs. I want 8, or if it was a video game and there weren't players who were risking injury and playing probably too many games, I would love to see 16 teams.
And I understand why people want that. I'm not so far out in left field. I can't figure that out for myself. Why people might not want as many as 16, even though I think that might be pressing it as far as maybe, I don't know which 16 teams would go, but I can understand why, you know, maybe even 24. You know, I know that, you know, 24 seems to be what they use at the mixed division level, and I can't say it doesn't work, but, you know, and I've used this argument before, so I don't like to repeat myself, but just so people know where I'm standing. For example, last season, you know, let's just say another 24 teams. Let's just pretend they limited it to 8, just for funsies. I'm still pretty sure at 8 that Team Montana State would have still been in it by the skin of their nose. I mean, they were like, I think they were an 8 seed. And if I'm wrong about it, maybe, you know, I'm sorry, but pretty sure they were an 8 seed. And so they would have been in an 18 tournament probably, and they obviously advanced to the championship game. But my argument's always been like, and I think to get there, I'm not sure if they had to beat, I know they had to beat South Dakota State, wasn't it? You know, and that's another pretty good team, and I think before that they actually had to beat Sam Houston State. And I'm pretty sure Sam Houston State was 10-0. Well, my argument has always been, you know, if you have a team like Sam Houston State, and I know they weren't as good as Montana State, I understand that, but I'm kind of a cut to the chase kind of a guy. I don't know, I'm kind of like, I don't really care if Montana State. I don't really care if Montana State could have beaten Sam Houston State. Sam Houston State's our defending champion. They're 10-0. Let's cut to the chase and let's just put Sam Houston State and North Dakota State and say, let's have our title game, but let's not mess around with the playoffs. Let's just put Sam Houston State together with North Dakota State and let's just call it fair. That's not what most people would want to do. I understand that. And so you can use that against me if you want to and say, well, that wouldn't have worked. But that's who I am. That's who I think it should have been. And so the fact it was Montana State, I guess that's evidence that I don't know what I'm doing, but I don't really care. I think when you have a team as good as Sam Houston State and North Dakota State, to me it's like that's as good as having this 2014 tournament. And you don't, without having to have all these teams play each other. You talk about injuries, would it not? You're going to tell me that putting Sam Houston State against North Dakota State wouldn't have given us a true champion? I think it does.
Okay, well, I really can't relate to those scenarios because I don't follow that the FCS playoffs. But Chris, we're going to let you go. I think a lot of people would like to get back to the college game day discussion and previewing the season. So, but I appreciate the phone call. You can call me anytime.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Chris. You too. All right. So I apologize if people could not hear the phone call. Yes, it's on speaker, but the speaker's down at the bottom of the phone. So I need to do a better job of holding the phone into the microphone here. Let's take our next call here. The voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is One Scoop John.
One Scoop John. My goodness.
We are experiencing some live TV, folks.
Yeah, this is what this looks like tonight.
I will try to project so that people can hear me.
Well,
usually people want me to pipe down, so I'm going to do the opposite of what people normally ask.
I will be monitoring the chat. Everybody's going to have to let me know from phone call to phone call. Antoine says loud and clear.
Oh, we like that.
We
like that very much. So back to some topics that I think the audience might relate to a little more. So Gameday / Fox Big Noon Kickoff / Big Games. And obviously we have one that I'm very excited about, which I like to call the Know Thy Enemy Bowl, Notre Dame versus Ohio State, which I think has to be a candidate for at least one, if not both, of the shows, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting because Notre Dame, it seems like, if anything, Freeman has kind of energized things a little bit. Brian Kelly did a lot of amazing things with Notre Dame. There's no denying he got to a national title game. He got to playoff. And so, you have a former Buckeye going up against the current Buckeyes. I saw the Rose Bowl game. I was really impressed by what CJ and Smith and Jigba did, especially because you had some of your best weapons sitting out, right? And so I think that, Smith and Jigba had to come really pick up some of the, not slack necessarily, but definitely some of the weight that was happening. So, just getting past Utah the way that they did. So it's really going to come down to the defense, right? How quickly can Knowles get that defense up and running? So I don't know. I think it could be maybe a 10-point game. I don't think anybody's going to blow anybody else out, but you got to feel good about Ohio State's chances in that one a little more.
Well, I got to say, One Scoop John, it seems as though, based on the feedback I get here, that Ohio State fans are chalking this up as a victory, and they are throwing out some ridiculous scores, which are possible. But I see routinely 3 and 4 and 5 touchdown wins from Ohio State fans. Now, once we go to Notre Dame fans, they seem to be confident that their team can compete. They're not necessarily predicting wins, but saying, I think we can compete. We can be right there. We can pull it off. And then the rest of college football nation seems to be heavily siding with Ohio State to be winning this game by about 2 touchdowns, just like the Vegas line says. I think it's going to be closer than 2 touchdowns. That's my thought right now on this game.
Yeah.
This defense will not have preseason games or a live opponent to work against, although people would argue they're working against the best offense in the country, most likely in practice. I get that, but it's vanilla. It's different than real game speed. And that's going to be the first audition for a Jim Knowles defense. And for as good as Jim Knowles is, his defense is regressed at Oklahoma State when he first got there. Before he fixed them, they regressed.
Right. Yeah, and with it being the first game for him, I think that's going to be a little bit bumpier than having it be Freeman's first game, because let's face it, like, he knows the team. I think it's just going to be a little bit. I think he's going to have things kind of rolling, but yeah, I see Ohio State is still going to have that lightning fast offense and still going to have some key players. Just out of curiosity, who are you seeing kind of coming up to replace Olave and Wilson as like the next big wide receiver on your side?
Well,
other than Jackson Smith,
yeah.
Jigba.
Other than him, obviously Marvin Harrison was the guy that stepped up in the Rose Bowl with 3 touchdowns. So he was a guy that we know who his father is. So he has that pedigree. But the first time he stepped on the field at Ohio Stadium in a spring game, it was pretty easy to see, man, this guy looks like, much like Garrett Wilson does, he looks like an NFL receiver as a true freshman. He was just the size, the plucking the ball out of the air. He already had worked so hard to hone his craft even to that degree that he could run routes and set up the DB. So I'm most excited to see him. Julian Fleming was the #1 rated wide receiver in the country coming out of high school. And when he's been on the field and the ball's been thrown in his direction, he's done fairly well, but he hasn't been able to break into the lineup consistently. But Emeka Egbuke, he's an exceptional player, and I think he's further along right now than Julian Fleming. But those would be the 3 guys.
Well, I'll just have all of them on my keep an eye out board, and as we get closer to the game. But my other topic, just quick, and then I'll move on. USC is a team that's really fascinated me. Shout out to Tim in the chat, but USC has really fascinated me. Completely new staff, obviously Lincoln Riley. You've got Grinch, and I was looking up some of Oklahoma's defensive stats when he took over, and his first year, which I believe was 19, his defense skyrocketed from like somewhere in the hundreds to, I want to say, 30th or 35th or somewhere. It jumped a ton of spots, and that was like overall score, and so I feel like another game that could be in College Game Day / Big Noon Kickoff may be a USC versus Utah. Just seems like a game that could generate a lot of ratings and eyeballs. You've got on one side the champion, you got on the other side a team that just got Lincoln Riley, and obviously there's going to be a lot of back and forth in that game. I think Utah's going to pull it out. That's actually the 1L. I have USC going 11-1, and I think the 1L is probably going to be Utah, just because they're returning a lot of people, a lot of productivity, according to a lot of Utah fans. So, what do you think about that game? And just that seems like another big one.
Well, I've got some over-unders coming out first thing in the morning, and I believe I made 7 or 8 selections of what are my best bet over-unders, and one involves USC. So I'm not going to give away that pick just yet, but they're at 9.5.
That's fair. That's fair.
They're at 9.5.
Okay.
And I believe Lincoln Riley's a first-rate coach. Caleb Williams is where did I rank him? Top 5 or so in the nation at quarterback.
Yep.
Jordan Addison, Caleb Williams, the whole deal, or Mario Williams, and they're about 4 to 5 deep at receiver in the offensive line. As Tim has pointed out to me and caused me to look into, the offensive line is strong, not deep, but the first stringers are really good. The defense, what's going to be intriguing is you can't look at last year's defense and really give much correlation to what's going to happen this year. They've overhauled so much.
Right.
That, and they've picked up not guys that have necessarily proven much elsewhere, but they've played well for the most part when they've been given some level of time. So the Alabama linebacker, I'm blanking on his name, 2019, he got pressed into the starting lineup in 2019 and played extremely well. Trace, I can't remember his name. Bryson Shaw wasn't much of a safety at Ohio State, so their USC fans are going to have to temper their expectations there. The linebacker that came in as an edge rusher from Arizona State, again, I think that's a great addition. He played 10 games. He wasn't a highly ranked player coming out of high school, so I think the additions are significant, but I don't think this is going to be any kind of top flight defense. But by the time they hit Notre Dame, they could be a much better defense than they were in week 1 and should be.
Right, exactly. If Notre Dame was earlier in the season, I'd probably put that as an L. But like an L for USC. But because of, like you said, because of where it is in the schedule, and I have to just make a general comment about USC's schedule. You know, people in the chat are dogging me for the 11-1 prediction, but if you look at most of their schedule, it's some real tough cookies. You got Rice, real historically difficult opponents. You have Arizona on here, which went like 1 win or a couple of wins. Washington, which went 4 wins, and I'm not saying that last year's totals are necessarily indicative of this year's totals, but it's going to take some time to grow those teams. I think that's a fair thing to say. So, like, I just don't see, like, other than Notre Dame, which is going to be a tight one, and other than Utah and maybe UCLA, depending on if Kelly has the team rocking this year or not. Kind of gone up and down. Last year was decent. Like, I could see it being an 11-1 and dark horse playoff contender, just because of the nature of their schedule being, I'd say, one of the easier ones. I don't know what their ranking is for SOS yet, but my guess is it'll be pretty low.
Well, USC always goes out of its way to schedule difficult, but of course they're playing in the worst conference, and they're playing in, well, I don't want to say the worst division of the worst conference because they're both pretty bad, but
right.
They go out and they grab Fresno State, a capable team to go along with Notre Dame, non-conference. But to your point, I get it. If you size up USC against every team on its schedule individually, then they are better than maybe everyone. Notre Dame, Utah would be the 2 exceptions that could be debated all night. So you would think that they would do 10-2 at the worst, but that's not the way college football works, though. The games aren't played individually, and the best team doesn't always win. So playing UCLA at the Rose Bowl is a challenge. Going to Corvallis for a game is a challenge. And let's all not be surprised if there's a game against, I don't know, Arizona State. There's a game against Cal. There's a game against Washington State, Stanford on the road that are fourth quarter games.
Yeah, I mean, it A lot of people are saying 8-4, 9-3 in the chat. I get that. But the schedule is looking like they could sneak in to the Final Four. So we'll see. But that's all for me, Mark. Thanks for doing this as always, and don't forget, everybody, join us in the Discord.
There
Gotta
you
get
go.
that Discord more lively. Let's
Absolutely. One Scoop, John. I appreciate you being here. You know that. Thank you so much for that.
Appreciate you. All right, bye.
So yes, the Discord. So what's going on right here in the live chat goes on all the time, or could go on all the time. Don't want to try to fool anyone because we only have about 50 or 55 people that are eligible for the Discord that have the link. But what you do is you go to Patreon, patreon.com. That's patreon.com, patreon.com. Search Mark Rogers TV. Sign up there. I get you the link. You go to Discord. You can talk to these knuckleheads all the time about college football. You got One Scoop John and Eric and Tim and Exploring with Ben and Ronan and others there. Tim reminded me, the Alabama linebacker, of course, Lee. He put in there, Lee. Bingo. Shane Lee. Yes. Then I saw Gentry. Eric Gentry. This is horrible when you've got names in your head that you've said it like 1,000 times. And I blanked on them. Yeah, Shane Lee, Eric Gentry, two of the big pickups. SEC Dog had asked me, and I'll take a call just here in a second, why Ohio State gets hyped every year. Well, it's a huge school with a huge fan base, and we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have several discussions that are going to be pretty fascinating coming up here in the next several weeks with a guy that does a lot of work with analytics and statistics. But Ohio State may just have the largest fan base of any team in the country. In addition to that, keep this in mind, SEC Dog. Who has the best record in college football history? And I understand Alabama's right there. So we're not going to get down to the fourth decimal point. Point is, it's the greatest winning percentage of all time, and it's the best winning percentage of this century for the last 20 years. So that's why they get hyped every year, because they are the only, I think I can pretty much state this without debate, they're the only school that has basically been in the national championship race every year this century. And I understand, before anybody jumps up and says 2011, Mark, 2004, yes, I know the records from all the years. I'm stating in general, basically every year. Yes, there's been a couple exceptions, but 16 or 17 out of 20 seasons, they have been in the national championship race. So that's why they get hyped every year. All right, let's get to our next call right here at the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Joe.
Joe, how are you?
I heard you. This is my point exactly. This isn't what I wanted to talk about. But did you just reference a recent graphic by T.J. Altimore?
Yes.
Yeah, I recently saw it while watching. It's another podcast. I think it's called like 360 Sports.
Okay.
367. No, 365. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it while watching those guys, and yeah, I actually have it right now. It's pretty interesting. I think the second one on the list is actually Notre Dame. So this Ohio State Notre Dame rivalry, or no, not rivalry, but game. It should be like one of the biggest in the country, I guess.
Absolutely. Both historically and just because they're two good teams right now.
Yeah, anyway, what I wanted to talk about was, now you used to be in TV, right?
Yep.
So you might have already heard about this, but the Big 12 is trying to look with Apple, or Apple's trying to look with the Big 12 to get some TV deals, along with the Pac-12. And it's sort of part of a larger scheme by Apple to try and get sports deals for their streaming service. I think it's called like Apple TV or something. They're trying to get MLB, MLS, which is the soccer league, and some more college football games. And it's sort of a trend in TV broadcasting, trying to move away from TV to streaming. I don't think it's very good, because if you look at the NFL ratings from Fox to Amazon Prime, or for the USFL ratings from like NBC, Fox to like Peacock, which is the NBC streaming service, it's not very good, and it's not very good for fans either, because it just adds another premium upon cable.
So the first guess I would make, and these are just guesses, estimated, educated guesses, would be that the NFL probably suffers less moving from over the air or cable to Amazon, because those fan bases are dedicated fan bases, and the NFL has a foothold unlike any other sport in this country. Whereas the USFL, people are casually watching the USFL. They're not. So I would think that the transfer of percentage of viewers would decline even more for the USFL.
Yeah, I'd say so. The other thing is, since Apple is looking at the MLB, the difference between the MLB and the NFL, for instance, is that the average NFL fan is way more likely to watch like an NFL game that doesn't involve their primary fan base.
Absolutely.
Like if I'm like a Chargers fan and and it's like a boring Monday night, I'll just watch Monday Night Football if I have ESPN on. Whereas if I'm a San Diego Padres fan, I'm much less likely to watch Baseball Night in America.
Yep. Oh, there's no question that baseball has become super regionalized and localized in the last couple decades. When I was a huge baseball fan, I was not like that. I would watch any baseball game, and I had the Major League Baseball package for like 15 years or more. But yeah, that's the way baseball's gone, and that's the way most people consume it. They just love their local team and could care less about anything else. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to college football, do you think that the Pac-12 and the Big 12, do you think that they would find more success on streaming services? Do you think that they would be like moving into like the next big medium, or do you think that it's like detrimental to their success in regards to broadcasting and like viewership?
Well, the bulk of money is still through the TV networks. And so I think you need to be thinking in both directions at the same time. So everybody needs to be in digital. That's where it's at. That's where it's going. But most of the money is still the TV rights, and the viewership is still locked into over the air and cable.
All right, well, that's all that I wanted to talk about. Thank you for having me on. I'll be back some other time soon.
Yeah, appreciate the call.
See you.
Call back anytime. Thanks.
No problem.
All right. So before we take this next call, let's see what you guys have here. I apologize for any of the audio issues. I think we at least have clear audio, so we will go with that. And I guess I'm going to spend part of my day tomorrow trying to figure out, and it's kind of tough to do unless we have an actual show where I have somebody needing to speak through the phone into my ear. So it's kind of difficult to test without that. So that's going to be a difficulty trying to test the issues with the line. All right, let's get to our next call. Hear the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Sean from Centerville, land of AJ Hawk, Mike Nugent, Kurt Herbstreit, and Michael Bennett. So I just thought I'd give you a call tonight and ask you what your thoughts were on Marcus Freeman kind of some of the things that he said about the school, and I'm really kind of thinking it's going to backfire on him. And honestly, I was kind of scared for that game, because Ohio State seems to always lose to opponents at home that are non-Big Ten. I don't know what it is. It's just they have a they have a record of that. And I was worried about that last year with Oregon, just because we have a weird track record. Like, we lost to Texas back in the day with Vince Young at home. We lost to Virginia Tech. We lost to USC at home. We lost to
Oklahoma,
Oregon, Oklahoma. Yeah, it seems like we have a terrible home. But I was kind of scared for the game. But I'll be honest, after that, I kind of feel like we are going to hang up whatever the score. I just have a weird feeling that this is not good for Notre Dame. I was listening to an interesting podcast with the infamous Zach Smith. I think that's his name.
yes, he's been on here maybe 20 times or so. Yep.
Oh, has he? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
He had a really. I recommend any Ohio State viewers to listen, or Notre Dame viewers for that fact, to listen to his podcast from 2 days ago about Marcus Freeman. It was very interesting. Great. I thought it was a really good podcast. But I really am now. I'm kind of thinking that that's really going to backfire on him. I saw he was trying to step back some of the comments, but first off, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, and then I'll talk a little bit about game day before I let you go.
So the initial comments that he made somewhere in the range of 3 months ago, and I'm trying to recollect what those were, but I had issues with them, and I stated those on here, and I actually cut a video just because I didn't think it was the end of the world. I didn't think he was a horrible person or anything like that, or should be disciplined or anything crazy like that. I just thought it to be unnecessary, especially why. Okay, here's an individual who had tremendous on-field success at Ohio State as a player, much more success as an Ohio State player than Notre Dame was having. So had he, he makes this comment about, I didn't want to make a second mistake. So he's basically saying that he made a mistake not taking the Notre Dame scholarship offer and going to Ohio State. And we know that, number one, what has happened to him because of his Ohio State playing experience and education. Well, he played in national championship games. He played for 3 Big Ten champions. He played on top 10 teams. Had he played at Notre Dame, he would have lost about 20 games. So there's no comparison between the two schools and the two football programs at the time that he played. Okay, number two, what are you looking?
He played on a team that finished second in the country one year.
Sure. 06, 7, and 8. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was no comparison between the two programs at the time. Number two, he met his wife at Ohio State. So unless he's discounting, whatever marital success he's had, that likely would not have happened had he not been attending Ohio State. Number three, and getting back to his profession, he's 35 years old, and he's the head coach at Notre Dame. He is arguably the best job in the country. He's got a top 5 to 10 job in the country, without a doubt. And much of that success that led him, well, it started as a player and then a graduate assistant at Ohio State, which then led to the relationship that he built with Luke Fickell that gave him the job to become a defensive coordinator at Cincinnati, that set him up for the Notre Dame defensive job that led him to become the head coach at Notre Dame. So all of his success is wrapped up in Ohio State University. So I'm not getting his disparaging comments about, boy, I'm not going to make that mistake again. What mistake did you make? What are you talking about? That's a completely asinine comment. It's not only unnecessary, it's just idiotic. It's stupid. And he's a smart guy. And he could have tremendous success at Notre Dame. But that was just a stupid comment. Now, the comment that he made more recently that he backpedaled on was about, that you don't need to go to, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember exactly what the comments were, but basically you have to go to class at Notre Dame and you don't at Ohio State. And then when he phrased it and when he readdressed it, he said he was, basically just addressing the size of the schools, and that if you go to a size school of Ohio State, you don't necessarily get counted upon to be in class and so forth. That I don't have that much issue with,
that's
but
a
whatever.
Walk back. So I went to Ohio State
Okay.
in 2010 and 2011. I'm a graduate. Unfortunately, I couldn't go there 4 years. I had to pay for my own school. But I went there for 2 really good seasons. So we went to the Rose Bowl my first year, and then the Sugar Bowl my second year for the infamous Pat Gate.
Sure.
But my senior year, I was in class with Dane Sanzenbacher. I had like 2 or 3 classes with them each quarter, and he was there every day. So, I knew several of the players, and they all went to class. I never, and then I was listening to Zach Smith. He made a really good point that now, if you knew that, if you knew the quarterback for Ohio State isn't going to class, like people would be taking pictures of the empty desk and saying, where's the quarterback at? Like with social media, these guys have to be on the up and up with that type of stuff. So it's, I think it's a little bit. And the other thing too is Ohio State now. You're familiar with Ohio, but Oxford, Miami of Ohio used to be like the flagship for public schools and colleges in Ohio as far as academics. Ohio State is now harder to get into than Oxford. So Miami of Ohio. So I mean, I understand that Notre Dame's a great degree. I'm not saying that it isn't, but I just think, like, too, when you're talking about the top level players, like, I don't know if the school is exactly, it might be for some students, but it's not going to be the end-all, be-all. I mean, if it was, then Notre Dame would have a national championship all the time, and you know what I mean? So, like, I just think it's kind of a really silly comment. And considering, so he's kind of devaluing his own degree.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean?
Sure he is. And he's
saying,
he's devaluing his own degree, and he also is not crediting. It's just obvious that he has arrived where he is because of the person that he is, but the opportunities all came through an education and a football playing experience that started at Ohio State and was founded there, and then all of his connections came from there that led to the jobs that led to this job. So I don't even understand how in any way you can disparage that connection and that.
I think it's kind of sad because, I try to root for the guys that have connections here, but I'll be honest, I think he's kind of making it hard. He's kind of making it hard for, people that supported him as a Buckeye to kind of root for him as a coach. I mean, I don't understand that. But my next thing I wanted to say was Lee Corso.
Okay.
That guy, he was great, especially, 15, 20 years ago. He was him and the way he could play off of the other crew with Herb Street and Fowler. But it's just gone downhill ever since he's kind of lost a little bit. He's lost a few steps, and I'm not really sure how they're going to redo the show, but I just don't know if it will ever have that magic that it had at the beginning when they started it. Especially if you look at 10 to 15 years ago, back in the aughts, I guess the aughts, and that was it was a great show, and I always enjoyed to see if the Buckeyes it was always fun to see which team made it on that week. I know you kind of think it doesn't really matter, but I don't know. It was just as a college student, I guess, going to school or in high school, it was always kind of fun to talk about at the water cooler, and I think that's why people like it because it's kind of a water cooler topic. It's really too bad that we all have to age, right? So it does kind of stink because he is a legend, and that story about him as a coach for Indiana and taking the picture after the first quarter with his team, that's just a classic story. So, Oh, one other quick thing for you. I gotta put a shot in at our Michigan boy, Steve Deese, but he, if you look at his ratings, Michigan should beat Ohio State no problem this year, but I bet he's not picking them. So considering they have a higher ranked coach and they have a higher ranked team. So I just don't understand his rankings for either thing, but I'm not saying that. Well, I am saying I don't think Harbaugh is as good of a coach as Ryan Day, even though last year. But it's just, I think Harbaugh just kind of hit lightning in a bottle, and it will be interesting to see if he can repeat this year. I think Steve is way optimistic for Michigan. It seems like whenever Michigan has and I'm surprised he doesn't realize this, me being a Bengals fan, it's like we win when we're not supposed to. But with Steve, he should learn that, hey, when Michigan's favored, that's when they're not as good. So it'll be interesting to see how they do this year. I just don't like his rating system. I've told you that before, but there you go.
Well, we appreciate the call, and call back anytime.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. So, yeah, we always enjoyed the conversation with Steve Deace, Michigan podcast. He joined us on our Iowa show last week as we previewed way in advance. We're doing an opponent series where we're bringing on a media member for each opponent of that particular team. So for Iowa, they play Michigan October 1st. We bring on Steve Deace. Great insight, not just into Michigan football, but Iowa football as well. Tremendous show. Check it out. Go to the Iowa channel. Check out that conversation Corey Bratta and I had with Steve Deace. Hey, to the last caller's defense, or to back them up to a certain extent, sure. Does Steve know a ton about college football? Absolutely. He's exceptional. I've said this, and I'm very open and honest about this. I've said this right on the air a few times, that I've talked to a lot of people on here. And some of you know that before I ever started anything on YouTube, I was a sportscaster for a CBS station and another station for 11 years. And sure, I used to get nervous when I was in my 20s. Now I understand that who cares, kind of thing. You get past being nervous at all. But when I was first starting, of course, coming out of Kent State, but I grew out of that and so forth. And then on here, with all the people that I interviewed over the course of a very enjoyable stay, both in Mississippi and Ohio as a news reporter, anchor, and a sports director, Jerry Rice and Brett Favre, Gene Stallings, Steve Spurrier, Peyton Manning, and a ton of other people, John Calipari, all sorts of people through the years, that you get to a point where, and it's not like I've got this thing licked, because I don't. I'm not a tremendous broadcaster, but I'm not nervous at all by any kind of situation. But I knew from having Steve on here a number of times, and I really don't remember how we connected. It must have been on Twitter, I guess, that when he was gracious enough, kind enough to ask me on his podcast on a regular basis, I thought he was the first person that I thought, wow, okay, I'm going to have to be ready to roll. I cannot just, the majority of times, meaning 99% of the time that I come on here, I would like to deliver better content. I would like to deliver better analysis, but with everything I'm doing to try to build a business, I don't prep. I don't read. I don't get ready. Most of the shows that you see, whether it is some of the upper scale online shows, and I'm not going to name them by name, or the more traditional TV shows, those people are working for 8 hours to deliver 1 or 2 hours of content. Well, here I just sit down and start talking. But I knew when Steve Deace approached me to be on his podcast on a regular basis, I thought, Okay, I'm just going to have to be ready to roll. This is going to be a challenge to keep up with him. And it has been, but we have a good time. But to the last caller's credit, I got to say, with great respect for Steve's rankings, I don't get his Michigan ranking. Losing Hassan Haskins and their top two, Andrew Stuber, and their other best offensive linemen, and Daxton Hill and Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo, Brad Hawk. I don't see it. I don't see it. Let me look at a couple comments before we take this next call real quick. Falcon Rex, a lot of great comments here. I hope I haven't missed any. Most college degrees are worthless. All of them at FSU. Thank you, SEC Dog. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for that. Gary Lewis is saying 1978, 79. That would be 79. I think 78 was still Rick Leach. So 79, Michigan was not very good. Yes. Had a quarterback from Southern California. Wangler. What was his first name? Was it David? David Wangler? Anyway. Yes. And Michigan almost, if it weren't for an Ohio State blocked punt with about 10 minutes left in the game, taken to the house by Todd Bell, probably would not have won at the Big House that year and gone on to the Rose Bowl as the number one team in the country. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line? Michael, I'm doing well. How are you?
Not bad. Just found out I had some blood clots, but I'm all right. And it's John Wangler.
John Wangler. What did I say, David? Yeah, John Wangler. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember him well.
Right.
Obviously not that well to remember his first name, but I saw all of his games.
Yep. I know that Fox Big Saturday could be there for the Purdue and Penn State game there. But I was wondering actually is if Purdue in Minnesota or Purdue, Wisconsin has teacher starts, which one of them more likely do you think might be at a game day? I mean, game they might go to.
Give me those matchups again.
Purdue, Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota.
Well, depending on the point of the season, I'm going to have a little bit more, maybe more confidence that Wisconsin's going to be better, therefore, that game. But it all depends on what games there are to choose from. Hey, Michael, can you turn me down in the background, please?
Yeah, no, I'm on my phone. I got earbuds in my phone. Let me try to get you a better area. Hang on here. And stuff like that. I'm in an area and stuff, but I guess it's the echoing from with my earbuds. Is it getting better?
I believe so. It's just that I can hear the reverb. So anyway, go ahead.
How does that come through with my earbuds sometimes? Because I'm always using my earbuds when I call you, so that can be echoed, so I can be tuned down and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there.
But anyway, I was just wondering to get your take and stuff like that. But I think Alabama game day will be in the game this year and stuff like that. Do you think that what early season Big Ten games do you think game day will be at for the Big Ten this year?
Well, I kind of ran through them. Again, we've got a strange reverb. Anyway, I'm looking at my list here. Week 2, I don't see anything. Week 3, possibly Penn State at Auburn. Week 4, Minnesota, Michigan State's an interesting matchup. And then week 5, you've got Michigan, Iowa. Now, see, I would bet that that's going to be the most likely, although I picked NC State and Clemson that week. Michigan, Iowa is a possibility, of course. Ohio State, Michigan State in week 6. Week 7, you've got the Michigan State, Wisconsin game, and you also have Penn State, Michigan. Week 8's Iowa at Ohio State. Week 9 is Ohio State at Penn State and Michigan State at Michigan. Week 10, you've got Iowa at Purdue. Although I don't expect Iowa to have a banner year, but if they do, that's a possibility because there's really no super strong games. There's Clemson Notre Dame that week. That was the game that I picked.
Yeah.
Week 11, Nebraska at Michigan. Week 12, you've got Wisconsin at Nebraska, also Iowa at Minnesota. And week 13, of course, Ohio State, Michigan, also Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Now, I'm trying to think off the top of my head right now, what week is Purdue going to Madison? I don't have access to the schedule right now, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't either.
No, I was wondering, because I know you was looking and stuff like that. I wasn't sure and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I don't remember.
No, I was just wondering. Those are the two games I think Purdue, that game they might go to this year. But I'm thinking along the lines of might be Wisconsin and Purdue and stuff like that. I don't think Iowa's going to be that good this year.
No.
Alrighty. No, I was just taking, wanting to get your take about it and stuff like that. I'm still looking forward to your team-by-team schedules, which I'm sure you're cranking out and stuff like that. So.
Well, the schedule previews, we decided to put those on Patreon because the first one we cranked out with Maryland, I just thought that would be a channel killer. So if anybody wants a schedule preview, they can get those on Patreon per request.
Okay. Now, the only thing I'm speaking on, I know they said you got to go through Patreon to get to your Discord, but if I'm already on Discord, which I am, how can I find you, or do I have to get the link from your Patreon page?
Yes, that's where you get the link.
So I can, like, when I'm on Discord, I can just type in the voice of college football or Mark Rogers, and it would give me there, right?
You can try. I don't believe so.
Okay, but what's it under, though, on Discord?
Pardon me?
I said, is it on your Discord channel? What is it under? Is it under the voice of college football, or is it Mark Rogers?
Well, I would have to look here. And since I only have one hand to look, I really can't answer that question right this second. We're kind of tied up tonight in terms of since I'm holding this phone. So.
Yeah, I see that and stuff like that. No, I was just wondering. And stuff like, because I was thinking if you're already on Discord, you should be able to get access to the channel, but if not, oh well.
Well, do me a favor, and you've got Exploring with Ben, you've got Tim, you got Eric, got all sorts of guys that are on Discord on a regular basis. They might be able to answer your question there in the chat.
All right, I was just wondering. All right, as always, Mark, great show. Keep it up, man. Talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, Michael. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, you know what I did was I hung up the line, and I think that's probably the best thing to do right now. I think we're done with trying to talk through all that. All right. All right. So we will have to check out the phone lines and figure out what the issue is with the earpiece and not being able to hear through the phone lines. So we'll get to that. Okay. Eric is asking, thank you for that contribution there, sir. Did you get any Twitter responses, Mark? I think Tom Fornelli would also be a great guest. Well, you know what? Let's go talk to Tom Fornelli right this second, whoever that is. The responses I got, and you know what? To a certain extent, I didn't necessarily expect a response. I was trying to create traffic. You know, sometimes like when you go for a sale, you can't just go in for the kill and get the sale the first time. You got to just knock on the door, knock on the door, knock on the door. So I was kind of anticipating that this would be a situation in which we would just have to create a lot of traffic. And I could tell by everybody's responses that the longer we did it, the less people were going to participate. So the first person I reached out to, I believe, was Kirk Herbstreit, and there were like 35 people that tweeted and retweeted and liked it. And then it just went less and less and less and less and less. So after about 20 tries, I thought, okay, we're not, people have lost their enthusiasm for this. And so Kevin Sumlin got back to me, And I can't remember the name of the other gentleman that I set up an interview with for Thursday or Friday. He's got some kind of podcast that I was unaware of, but he was recommended. So we've got a few coming up from that little workshop. But Tom Fornelli and I guess Gary suggesting Pete Flutak. What was interesting about Kevin Sumlin is that he DM'd me on Twitter. He followed me, then he DM'd me, and he said, "Give me a call." I'm like, give you a call? Where? Give me a call. And so I said, appreciate you getting back to me. If you give me your number, I'll give you a call. All right. So we're going to go to Twitter since Eric is suggesting, and Eric is first rate right here for us all the time. So let's look this guy up. Who are we talking about here? Tom Fornelli. CBS Sports Cover 3 podcast. Okay. And he's got a little mailbox right there. So this is easy. Hey, Tom. Like to have you on the show to talk some ball. Let me know what days and times work best for you. I appreciate the consideration. RogersTV.com. Bam. There we go. And then we also have reach out to Dan Lanning. You know what? I have. I'm not going to retell the coaches' stories again tonight, but HR picking stuff. Dan Lanning. Yep. And we got the Big Game Boomer. We got him coming on here Thursday. That's tomorrow, correct? One Scoop John, can we hear about your 11-2 season at Texas A&M and then what happened from there? What happened in your last game there? 70-7. Brandon Huffman. Let's see who that is. Brandon Huffman. So we're going to contact him, national recruiting editor. I would love to team up with at least one, if not 2 or 3 or 4, like recruiting gurus that I could just lean on to come on here once a week. That would be phenomenal. Brandon Huffman. So anybody who's on Twitter right now, we're going to reach out to Brandon Huffman. So if you would like to retweet it, reply, like it, do whatever, it's going to be there, and it's more likely that he's going to respond if all of that happens. And then who else? Who else? One Scoop John wanted somebody. Oh, Gary Lewis. Yes, there we go. Pete Flutak. Pete Flutak. Let's see who this is. You guys know so many more people than I do because I don't watch anybody's. And that doesn't mean there's not a ton of really good people out there. I don't see anybody by the name of Pete Flutak. So anyway, I just don't take the time to watch anyone. Sam Webb, Andrew Ivins, of course, from 247. I know that name just because I look up so many recruiting numbers with 247. Let's see if we can get Andrew Ivins. Good one there. Let's get him on here. The last time I hit up Andrew Ivins was January of 2021, and he didn't respond. But see if he responds this time. Let's see who else. Michael says, Mark, I have to say, why not get Ashley Adamson from the Pac-12 Network or Dave Repson from BTN? Well, I've had on Jerry DiNardo, like 3 times. And so Dave Revson. Some of these people, you can hit them up directly. But the other ones I would like you guys to know. The Rock did not respond, Falcon Rex. Talk Big Ten football. Thanks to a lot of you guys, we have Howard Griffith, okay? We have a lot of good things in store. The only problem is I can't do them all at the same time. They take up too much time. I can't even produce the kind of content on this main channel that I want to. I know that I said this when we did our channel update a few weeks ago, that I wanted so badly to like produce really smart, good stuff here on the main channel. But I'm spending my whole day producing all the other live streams and all the other records for all the team channels. If I could just run one channel, I would do that. All right, where are we? Howard Griffith. Okay, who else? You guys are just throwing them my way. Oh, Gary has corrected. Oh, that's an I, F-I-U-T-A-K. Thought it was an L. College Football Encyclopedia. I was looking these people up when you guys were throwing so many names at me, and I was like, man, I kind of thought, I hear from, I'll say this in a very nice, kind way. I mean this in the nicest ways. Like, I'm ignorant about certain things. That doesn't mean you're stupid. That just mean you just don't know about certain things. But every so often, I'll have somebody make a comment to me that that Mark, you're one of the top in terms of popularity, one of the top college football YouTubers, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know because I don't pay that much attention. But then I get out there and see, no, there's a ton of YouTubers and podcasters that have huge followings compared to mine. All right. I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce that guy's name. F-I-U-T-A-K. Okay. We contacted him. And that one's on Twitter. So who suggested Pete? I think it was Gary suggested Pete Fayutak. Fayutak? Then please reply to him, retweet it, like it, do all those things. Archie Griffin. If I told the stories about Archie Griffin, I've interviewed Archie Griffin twice. Archie Griffin is one of the nicest people you will ever want to meet for a big time college football celebrity. Michael, we went through the exercise the other night. I contacted Pollitt and McElroy. So please, what I need you to do, Michael, is look up the tweets that I sent to those guys and retweet them and reply and bother them. Joe says, I would look at individual guys to come on that would be germane to the individual week throughout the season. Book them now for throughout the season, at least a soft commit. Yeah, that's easier said than done. Yes. Falconer X. Shocking. Michael, yes. Like I said before in the past, it would be easier for you if you let us help you with the channel. Oh, my word. Yes, it would be. What kind of suggestions do you have? Yogi Roth. Yogi Roth. We used to have a USC guy that came on, and I can't remember his name. Good guy. I apologize if he would ever be watching this and know that I can't remember his name, but he's a great guy. But he went off into another industry. But he was Yogi Roth's producer, and I didn't know who Yogi Roth was because, again, I wouldn't know. But he's with the Pac-12 network, and I only know him because of the guy that I knew, Yogi Roth. Let's see if we can find this guy, Yogi. There he is. All right. So if any of you guys are on Twitter right now, I'm sending these out. So you should see them on my Twitter feed. Please like them, retweet them. Yeah, Joe, I need some help. You guys are a tremendous help, but I need sponsors. I need merchandise. I need an audio podcast. I should be doing an audio podcast because I think most of you guys know that that's where it's really at. Let's see. Antoine says here, one of your past guests suggested we get the guy that has a YouTube channel. It's called Top Billin'. I've heard of it. He has a very good breakdown content and is very knowledgeable. Mark, well, we'll look him up, or we'll look up Top Billin' on Twitter. There's Top Billing. Top Billin'. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, and everybody else who's John and all sorts of people. The Spurs Up Show and all sorts of people. The Spurs Up Show with Chris Phillips. Have you guys caught that? Have you guys caught that? Here, he's going to be doing a daily show here on the Voice of College Football. So we will have more on that later. Yeah, you guys have a good idea that I'm in over my head, but that's good. That's fine. I just have to prioritize and figure things out. And I have a huge project that I'm working on that I can't say anything about right this second, but hopefully in the next month, I'll be able to tell you about it. Falcon Rex, Miami show, 4 hours every day. Top billing. Okay, top billing. Well, I would think that they would have a YouTube channel. Top billing sport? Anyway. Yes, too many projects. Well, see, the problem, I think, is that we got too many channels. But, and there's about 10 channels we have that I just kind of gave up on for right now. There's just no way we can, like the Wisconsin channel's dead. The North Carolina channel's dead. The Auburn channel's dead. But we've got about 12 or 13 channels that are running pretty well, but they don't get enough views because we don't have sponsors, and they don't get enough views that they're only making a couple $100 a month. That's obviously not enough to live on. So I wrestle between producing too much. Well, you can't produce too much content, but producing content for all those channels, for 25 channels, versus producing good content. Tim is saying, for unbridled college football talk, you should give Sua Cravens a shot. Dude can break down teams and knows a lot of skinny. His recruiting story's epic. Okay, Sua Cravens. I remember him well. Did he not go to the NFL? What's he doing right now? Well, see, the problem is he doesn't have a Twitter. He's got a Twitter that he obviously has not touched forever, since 2011. So I don't know where to get a hold of him. Yes, I should do podcasts in the past. Yeah. Antoine, yeah, got to work on the set. I don't necessarily want a green screen. Joe says, get a list of guys, specialists to teams, and then match the good games they would have upcoming or after they play. I think it would be upcoming. Nobody cares about the game after it's over, unless it's right after it's over. Yeah, Mike, that's a good one. I should bring Maurice Claret or maybe Chris Gamble on the Miami channel, or whoever the official is that made the call. Yeah, that would be phenomenal. Michael, hit me up either on text or Gmail, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. You've got my Gmail account. Hit me up about that because I don't know where that got disconnected in terms of the writing. So, folks, you can write for us at the Voice of College Football. We hope to be enjoying some of the articles written by Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire that he has agreed to do some writing for us this season as well. And we've had some writers step up for us in the past, but they've gotten too busy. Falcon Rex. Dace was a sports guy, but knows daily broadcast. He will show you how to do it cheap. I don't know what that means. Terry Porter. Thank you, Dennis. Terry Porter. See, there's another name. I am not going to make a negative confession that I'm losing my memory. Because, yeah, Terry Porter. How many times have I said that name in my life? About 1,000. SEC Dog. Mark Rogers, we appreciate you, sir. Very knowledgeable about college football. Outstanding work there. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for that. Okay, I must not have the right Sua Cravens account then. Joe, I don't know what you're talking about in regards to a name guide. That's what we were doing the other night. We were contacting all sorts of name people. Michael is suggesting Kelly Kitchell and Rob Blackman on the Purdue Sports Network. Okay. I hate to say it, but since we don't have a Purdue channel, if I get one of them on here to talk about Purdue, I don't know that anyone's going to watch it. All right. I think we've hit the end of the line. I appreciate everybody here, but I've been on since 5 Eastern, and I was recording before that. So, Mark, what was the score of the 1984 Rose Bowl? Well, if you're talking about the 83 season, that was the January 1st, 84 game. That was Iowa, UCLA. 45-28 Bruins. If you're talking about the 84 season, which was the 85 Rose Bowl, January 1st, that was 20-17 USC over Ohio State. Michael, no dinner yet. Got a pork chop thawing. So we'll get on that. All right, everyone. We've only been on for 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's usually like 4 hours after I feel like this, but I think it was the 3 hours before that. All right. We appreciate everybody being here. You guys are amazing. You're phenomenal. We'll get it done. We'll improve. We'll get after all these things. But thank you so much for your help. And we will be back Wednesday. So that's 1:30 Eastern's the Ohio State show. On Thursday, Ohio State at 1:30 and Miami at 8. See you then. And yes, Joe, if you're still there, yes, we should talk offline. So hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail and we'll exchange numbers and go from there. So MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Thank you for that. Dennis, thank you. Tim, Jordan, SEC Dog, of course. One Scoop John, all of you. Falconer X, of course. Michael and everyone here. Mike 3883, Antoine, peace out. Appreciate you. And Eric, of course. We'll see you Thursday at 1:30.